And today I'm going to show you how I made a card with the Knit Together stamp set bundle, which is one of the Stampin' Up! Stamp sets from the current mini catalog. So it's the July to December mini catalog. And like I said, it's just kind of a fun little card that I made, and pretty simple actually. Trying to make sure I'm sort of lined up and sort of straight here on the on the video. Hopefully I am. But just a fun card that I made with the Knit Together stamp set. And I desperately need, as I've told you a couple times, for birthday cards. And particularly, I need kind of more masculine birthday cards for older nephews and for a couple of brother-in-laws and that sort of thing. So I thought this one might do the trick for a kind of a fun card for guys, a birthday card. So, hey, Bree and Karen, glad you're here. So this is kind of a fun little stamp set and die set. And, like I said, I think it's, mostly supposed to be used, or the idea was Christmas, but I sort of thought if I went with the more neutral and kind of greens and browns, I thought I could turn it into just, a basic birthday card and have it not be too Christmassy. It's definitely fall and winter looking, but I don't think it's too Christmas. So, all right, so that is the card we're going to be making today. So this is the Knit Together stamp, and it is one of the big background stamps. So you can see it's one of the large ones, and I'll show you in a second how I put that on the Stamparatus. And then there is this coordinating set of dies that go with it, and there are all sorts of these are all little individual rows of images. So I use the trees and the deer and the I don't know, I'm sure there's a term for this, and y'all will probably correct me, but the sort of flower looking image, I'm sure that there's a right word for it, but I don't know what it is. So anyway, so hey, Rebecca and Karen, I see, and Annie's here too, and Barbara, thanks for joining today. I appreciate y'all being here. So again, they're just kind of some good winter and fall themed dies in here. And again, each of these is an individual die. So each of these is like a little row. So you can cut out whatever you'd like. If you want an entire card front full of these, you can do an entire card front of those, or you can layer them up sort of like I did and do a couple of different ones and call it good. So, all right, so this is the Knit Together dies, and I've totally forgotten the name of the die set, but a Knit Together stamp set and coordinating dies. And it'll come to me probably in the middle of the video, and I'll be like, that's the name of the dies. But anyhow, so that is the stamp set bundle. And then the sentiment on here that I used is from the Peaceful Moments stamp set. This is one of the older ones that's in the current annual catalog. So we've got that. And then on the inside of the card, I used this sentiment, which is one of my favorite ones for inside birthday cards. It's the Happiest of Birthday stamp set. And so that's what we used on the inside. And then one more die set that I used. I wanted a circle for my sentiment, and wanted the stitched look to it, and didn't want to layer it up. I don't know, the scalloped circles I thought looked a little too feminine. I thought I'd stick with the stitched circles. So this is actually from the Picture This dies, and you can use this to cut out like an entire card front, this one as well, or you can do like I did and just cut individual sentiments out of it as well. So I just cut a piece of cardstock that's a little bit bigger than this die, the opening in this die, and just stamp the edge and die cut it. So it's pretty easy to do. All right, that aside as well, Jean and Wendy and Deb, thanks so much for joining. Glad y'all are here. One thing I did want to show you before I get distracted on the card. So I've got the information on the Love Santa tag kit, which was available beginning on the 6th of October. It's a really cute kit, and there are some coordinating Love Santa treat bags, and mine actually just arrived today. So it's a little hard to tell what they're going to actually look like, in pictures and how big they are and that sort of thing. So first things first, this is what the kits come in. They come in a really cool kind of heavy duty box, which is perfect for storing things once you get it created. And you can put your tags in here. If it's a card kit, you can store the cards in it. You can use it for a gift box. You can do whatever you want. And then on the inside, when you open it up, it has everything that you need to put the tags together, or the cards, or whatever it is. This one in particular has the Love Santa stamp set, which I'm sure, hopefully you can see it without too much of a glare on it. But it's a photopolymer stamp set. And then you also get a Night of Navy ink spot in there. And then the kit itself, whoops, I just threw the stamp set on the floor. The kit itself is all packaged up in cellophane, so everything is nicely protected and it arrives to you without being all banged up and beat up. Hopefully you can see the tags are kind of huge in this. Like I said, I haven't opened it up and actually put them together. I have a plan for what I'm going to do with them, but the tags are really good size. So, I mean, like card front size. Hint, hint, that might be what I do with mine. So, all right. And Jean from Chile, Oregon, I see is here, and Morgan. Yeah, it's a good die set, good Stampin' die set, so it's fun to play with. The Love Santa treat bags. This is a set of treat bags that you can get in addition. They're separate from the kit, so you don't have to purchase them if you don't want them. But they're gusseted little treat bags, and they're kind of cute, and they coordinate with the tags. Again, you can use them either with the tags, without the tags, or not at all. There's no requirement to get them, but they are a separate item that you can purchase if you would like to, so that you've got some little treat bags that you can tie your tags around and be good. So there's a Christmas tree one. There's sort of the kind of plaid look bag. This one's just got Christmas greenery images on it. And then this one's got some little polka dots on it. So there are 12 bags. So there are 3 of each of the designs in the package. So just wanted to show you that really quickly before we got going, since I actually had it in my little hands. So, all right. Okay, so back to the card. Let me get all this mess out of the way. Good heavens. So back to the card. So I've got my knit together stamp, and I'm going to take it out of the case, and I'm going to use my Stamparatus to stamp this. And when I do this, I usually, if I'm going to use the Stamparatus, particularly on something where I want a whole background, I actually start with a piece of cardstock that is bigger than what I'm going to need. So the card front on here actually is 3 5/8 by 4 7/8 for the actual stamped piece of this. But this is about a quarter sheet of cardstock. I don't know if I cut it exactly to that size, but it's definitely oversized. So this is about, I don't know, it may be a little closer to 4.5 by 5.5, but somewhere in that range. But when I'm using the background stamps, I usually try to have an oversized piece of cardstock to start with, just because it makes it easier for placement and that sort of thing. So I'm going to put my cardstock here in the corner, and then I'm going to take my stamp and I'm going to scoot it up as well, as kind of as far up into the corner as it'll go. And then I'm going to use my plate, going to press over that and pick up the stamp. And that's how I mount the background stamps when I'm using my Stamparatus. And I do find we do have that great big, I think, is it the E block, whatever that big enormous one is that fits underneath or fits behind the background stamps. I just realized I didn't get any ink out. I'm going to have to run over and grab my inks. Good heavens. So the background stamps, we do have the one big block that fits into them, but it's kind of difficult to maneuver and hold on to, at least for me. And I kind of have big man hands, and I have a hard time using that block. So that's why I definitely like the Stamparatus a lot better on it. So, all right. Well, hey, Patricia, thanks for hopping in. And let me go grab my inks since I totally forgot to put them on the table. All right, good thing I only needed 2 of them today. So I'm going to start with Sahara Sand ink. And I apologize if this wiggles the camera a lot. I'm going to try to do it gently, so hopefully I won't wiggle the camera too much. But I know that it can wiggle especially when I'm inking up images, and that's why I was die cut off to the side too, so that it doesn't wiggle the camera quite as much. And I'm just going to take my Sahara Sand ink. And if I haven't said so, this is Sahara Sand cardstock that I've got here that I've placed in the Stamparatus. And again, it's cut to about 4.5 by 5.5. You can go 4 1/4 by 5.5, whatever. It just needs to be oversized a little bit from what you actually need your final piece to be cut down to. All right, I think we've got it pretty well inked. And then I'm going to slide my paper, just make sure that it's up far in the corner as I can get it. And then I'm just going to close the Stamparatus over the top of it, give it a good squish, and hope that I get a good image. And if I don't, that's the bonus of the Stamparatus, is I can come back and restamp it. All right, it actually looks like we got a fairly decent image, so I'm pretty happy with that one. If I was unhappy with it and wanted to ink it again, you can definitely ink up your stamp and then just close it over again. That's why I kind of tuck mine up in the corner, so that I don't have to worry about placement, don't have to worry about the magnet and all that sort of thing. So I usually just kind of try to slide it up in the corner when I'm using the background stamps. All right, now I better close up this ink pad before I stick my fingers in it, because I know that I definitely will. And then we are going to actually trim this down. I just grabbed my Stampin' trimmer, and I'll try to keep it so that the cutting part here is on the screen, so hopefully you can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to trim off just one edge here sort of randomly. Just need to make sure that it's going to be wide enough. Then here I'm going to trim this one down, so I'm going to cut it to about here. All right, then the next time I turn it, I need to pay attention and make sure that I'm lining it up correctly. So there's my 3-inch mark, 3 1/4, 3 1/2, 3 5/8 is what I want it to land on for the final measurement. So I'm going to go over here, trim it at 3 5/8, and then I'm going to turn this again and make sure, I'm not even sure which side I trimmed it off initially, but I want it to be 4 7/8 for for the other side. So I'm going to go, here's my 5-inch mark, and I'm just going to go 1/8 of an inch under that, maybe. Come on now. The paper's not wanting to sit in there. There we go. All right. And trim that off. So again, the final result is going to be 3 5/8, if I measured it correctly, by 4 7/8. So that should be what I need for my card front. And hey, Sarah, glad that you're here as well. So, all right, so now I'm going to take my dies, and I wish I could remember. I should grab my catalog, but I already ran off once, so I can't even remember the name of the dies. But they're with the knit together stamp set. They're bundled together. So I'm going to take the 3 dies that I want to use on here, and I'm just going to take them. And again, there's no like special placement or anything that I did on them. I just tried to line it up so that one edge was straight over here, which would help me keep it straight. And then I'm going to take them and basically stack them like this. And I'm going to run them through the die cutting machine, which again, my die cutting machine is right over here to my right. So I'm just going to be off screen for a second doing the die cutting, so I hopefully don't wiggle the screen too much and you don't get seasick while I'm cutting. So, hey Bonnie, glad that you're here as well. It's a beautiful day in New Jersey. So I don't know where everybody's at, but it's kind of perfect fall weather. It's like 70, I don't know, 73 or something like that. So beautiful, beautiful fall day here. And run this through the die cutting machine. Hopefully I've got everything on here straight. And then I'll show you what I ended up with. So lift off my dies. And hopefully you can see it on the screen, but that's basically what you're going to end up with for die cutting. Now again, there are going to be little bits that may not fit perfectly on here, like on the, there's a little edge of a tree, but that's just fine. And then I'm just going to poke out the little pieces here of these kind of florally looking. Again, I'm sure there's a word for these, and Nordic is the word that I'm thinking of, but I know that there probably is a specific name for them. But whatever those little flower looking images are. And just going to finish poking the little pieces out. And the good thing, or the cute thing about these little deer and the little trees is you can actually use those, incorporate those in a different card if you should want to. Or you can have those be part of your card and not even worry about the negative side of it. So there are some cute little fun little images in here as well that you can use for die cutting. Now I got to get this mess all cleaned off here because I have to recut another piece here. So I'm trying to get all my little chopped up bits off the cutting plate. All right, let me put my dies away before I forget where I've put those. And I do have centers left in a couple of flowers, so I'm going to take my paper snips and poke out the little centers of the flower images. And the little deer are really cute. So the dies are called knit sweater dies. Okay, that's what I was thinking, but for whatever reason, I thought I was trying to make it more complex in my head. That I should have assumed that it would be something similar, but well, thank you very much, Annie. I appreciate that. So, all right, so that is kind of the background of our card. And next up, I've cut up a couple pieces of cardstock here. And this is soft suede, and this is cut to about 1 inch wide. And then I've got shaded spruce, and that's cut to about 3/4 of an inch wide. And this is actually crumb cake, and it's also cut to about 3/4 of an inch wide. I was trying to decide what color to put underneath the little kind of flowery looking images. And I don't know, I went back and forth on which one I should do, and finally decided I should just do the crumb cake with it. Grabbing my liquid glue here. And I'm going to start with the little deer images, and I'm just going to put a little liquid glue sort of in between each of the little deer, and then over here along the edge and right around this deer to make sure that I kind of got it secured a little bit on the side. I think that should be good. And then I'm going to line up here on the back side. Going to line up the soft suede, I was going to call it Sahara suede, soft suede cardstock. And then you should see it is peeking through on this side. Then I'm going to come here and do the same thing again with the crumb cake cardstock. Just going to put some little bits of glue here around the edges and in between the images. So it actually makes it pretty easy for gluing this together. I was a little worried when I first started playing with it. I'm like, oh, this is going to be a gooey, kind of ucky mess, but I didn't make too much of a mess, and I'm kind of a messy gluer. So if I can do it without making too much of a mess, you can easily do it too. So, oh, thanks, Karen. I appreciate that. So, all right, and then the last piece that we're going to do here is the shaded spruce. And again, just going to do the same thing with liquid glue. Going to run a little bit of liquid glue in between each of the little trees here. And take my little piece of cardstock. And again, just kind of lining it up, stacking them one on top of the other. And sticking it down. And then flip it over, and that's the card front. So again, super, super simple. I'm going to grab my trimmer again and just trim off the extra pieces. I did cut them a little bit long intentionally, just because I wanted to have a little bit of kind of what I call wiggle room on it to make sure that I wasn't going to end up cutting something too short. That's always my concern. You can always trim things off. It's awfully hard to add pieces to the cardstock, as I have found out. So I usually tend to cut things long and then trim them off like that. And that worked best for me when I was doing it. The next thing that I did was I took a piece of Sahara sand cardstock. This one is cut to 3 3/4 by 5. And I'm going to use my Stampin' Seal, and I'm just going to adhere the two pieces together here. There we go. And again, all the details for this are going to be posted out on my blog tomorrow, which is stampwithamyk.com. And I will add a link to the blog post here in the description of the video, so you'll be able to find that if you want to come take a peek at the information on the card and all the cardstock cuts and all that sort of thing. Because a lot of times I get talking and I either forget to say what they are, or I say the wrong sizes. So, all right. All right. So there we go. So that's it for the card front. Well, not quite it, but that's it for the difficult part of the card front. I grabbed a little bit of linen thread just because I wanted a little something on the front of it, but didn't want to make it too feminine. So I just wrapped linen thread around the card front twice, snipped it off here, and I'm going to tie a little knot rather than a bow. I thought about doing a bow, but then I thought, nah, bows make it seem kind of a little more feminine than what I was looking for. I need to send one off. Actually, I totally am missing. My nephew's birthday is tomorrow, and he doesn't live near me, so his card is going to be late. So, but I'm going to need to send one off to him. All right, so I've just tied a little knot with the linen thread, and then I'm going to snip it off here. And then we're going to go over to start working on the card front again. I've got a soft suede, too many S's, soft suede card base. This one is cut to 4 1/4 by 11 and scored at 5 1/2. But this same card front will also work with your standard card front, which is your 5 1/2 by 8 1/2 scored at 4 1/4. So you can do the same exact design, just turn the orientation of the card base a little bit differently. So like I said, I always like to try to mention that my preferred card fold is the top fold card, but I know that not everybody loves that design, but these all work just as well on a card that's a book fold card. This is a piece of soft suede designer series paper from the Neutrals 6x6 designer series paper pack. And again, I went back and forth on which side to put out. I decided I liked the little squares better, so I don't know. The dots would be fine as well. But whatever you want to use, whichever design is your favorite, you can put to the outside. And again, that's cut to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, so that's going to cover the entire card front. And then we've got our the actual card front, the kind of, the pretty part of the card, all done and ready to go. We're just going to use some Stampin' Dimensionals, or my half Stampin' Dimensionals that I've chopped up here, to adhere the two pieces together. So I'm going to adhere this to the card front with a couple Stampin' Dimensionals. Got to pick off the backing on those. And, there we go. And then I'm going to I try to use my grid paper and line this up on the grid lines, and that helps me, hopefully, to get things lined up a little bit straighter and a little bit, to make sure that I'm straight and centered is kind of what I want it to be. There should be about 1/4 of an inch all the way around the edge of the card. So again, it doesn't work perfectly because you kind of have to visualize it, but usually that helps me to get things lined up fairly straight if I can put it on the grid paper and then sort of use my eyes to figure out where the line should go. Hopefully it works, and if not, you can always take your paper snips, slide them in between, chop up your dimensionals, and put it back on straight, because I do that all the time too. So, all right, let me scoot that over a little bit, and we're going to do some stamping of the sentiment. And got soft suede ink here, and again, the sentiment is from the Peaceful Moments stamp set. And just going to stamp it on basic white cardstock. And I have it cut a little bit smaller than I typically do for a scrap of cardstock. But the reason I did that, I'll show you in 1 second, is I'm using the Picture This dies, which I showed you early on in here. And I'm just going to take that and cut around it with one of the openings in the die. So in order to avoid wasting a whole bunch of extra cardstock, I just used one of the smaller scraps that I had that I knew would give me plenty of room to stamp and cut, but not so much room that I'm destroying a whole pile of cardstock. So again, I'm going to go off to my right here, and I'm going to chop out the sentiment here. So is it actually just poinsettias that those are, Patricia? I don't know why. I was thinking they were a different type of, I don't know. Like I said, I thought it was a different name because it's definitely a distinct image when you see them. So, all right. So let me die cut this. Okay, so there we go. I've got my scrap of paper left and got my sentiment, which is die cut and has now got the stitches around the edges of it. All right, then I'm going to take some Stampin' Dimensionals, and I'm going to try to be a little bit careful about where I place them, again, because I've got this linen thread on here, so I want to make sure that I try not to get Stampin' Dimensionals where they'll be sticking kind of right underneath the linen thread, so you don't have kind of a weird little lump in your sentiment. So I'm going to go up high and down low on the sentiment, and again, make sure that I have it oriented the right way so that when I flip it over, it'll stick on in the right spot and not be hitting the little linen thread, I guess knot. I was going to call it a bow, but it's not a bow, it's a knot. All right, last piece for the card front is I've got a couple of the brushed metallic adhesive back dots, and I know that these are currently on the can't order them list, but they are looking like they should be back in stock next week. So I've got my fingers crossed that they should be back in stock, and hopefully y'all will be able to order them again. I know, as you can see, I'm kind of getting down there on what I have left, so I can't wait to order some more as well. So just added a couple of those, and I think those are considered the bronze ones. Anyway, those are gold, copper, and I think that one's bronze. So that's what I put on there. Again, just kind of trying to stick with a little more neutral and browns themed. And that's it for the card front. On the inside of the card, I also kept it pretty simple and just used a piece of the leftover Designer Series paper. I'm going to adhere that to the bottom, and then I'm going to add my sentiment from the Happiest of Birthdays stamp set, stamping that in soft suede ink on a panel of basic white cardstock. The basic white is cut to 4 by 5 1/4. And again, I'm going to try to stamp it straight. Hopefully I will. And if not, we got the other side of the cardstock, which I think that looks fairly straight and somewhat centered to me. And then we're going to adhere the little leftover piece of Designer Series paper that I trimmed off on the front. So this is about 1/2 inch by about 4 1/4. And I'll trim off the excess, hopefully once I get this adhered down. All right. So, hey, Charlotte, glad you're here. So, all right. Okay, so, yeah, like I said, I don't know. I thought they had a specific name for them, Patricia, but I don't know. So, anyway. All right, going to use a little Stampin' Seal to adhere the inside of the card to the inside of the card base, I guess, inside of the card base. I think that's what I should be calling it. And just going to adhere the two together. And the card's going to be all done. So that is it. Going to flip this closed and then do a quick crease with a bone folder. And those are my cards. So this is the one I made ahead of time, just a little bit of difference in the designer series paper on the background, but otherwise it's the same basic design. Again, both top fold cards, and you could definitely make them side fold cards if you prefer that instead. And that's it. So I hope you like the cards, and definitely you do need to hop on and get yourself the knit together stamp set bundle and the coordinating dies, because they're really cool. And don't forget to pick up your Love Santa tag kits while you're at it. And let me know if you have any questions about anything. So I appreciate y'all being here and spending some time with me on Friday afternoon. I will plan to be back out on my YouTube channel live next week, Friday, around 2 o'clock Eastern Time. And then next week, Tuesday, around 2 o'clock Eastern Time, I will plan to be live out on my Facebook channel. So thanks again for joining. Have a great weekend, and we will chat soon.